Imagine, a podcast series by Imagine Theatre.
Hello again and welcome to Imagine Headquarters for episode 25 of this podcast series with one of the biggest producers of pantomime and children's theatre in the UK.
For more information, go to their website at www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.
Now, before we go in, don't forget if you have missed any of the previous episodes with creatives, actors and behind-the-scenes tours of Imagine Theatre, you can catch up with them at any time. They are still available. And don't forget to subscribe to the series so that you don't miss out in the future. So let's go in. Now, in episode 24, I spoke to Business and Marketing Director Sarah Bowden, but for this episode, I'm going to take you behind the scenes here once again at Imagine's headquarters in Coventry. We'll meet some of the people who put the shows together in terms of sets and props. As we make our way around the vast set and prop store, we'll be chatting to Ross Simpson, Head of Props and Stage Management. Jason Noble, we met him on an episode previously. Geordie, Head of Scenery and Stores. And we're going to start in a moment with Dave Edmonds, Head of Operations. But I can't let this opportunity pass while we're here at Imagine HQ without talking to Managing Director Steve Bowden. Steve, it's just incredible the amount of nominations you've received this year for the Panto Awards.
Oh, thank you, Martin. It is. It's been such a tough year and the awards are back, and it's just great for all producers, including Imagine, to see some recognition for all the hard work that all the artists and the creatives went through to get pantomime back on stage this year.
And it's a measure of the company as well, isn't it? That they are all over the UK. They're not just confined to one production. They are literally everywhere.
We were fortunate to be nominated 8 times, and that's great. Productions in Scotland, we had technicians. So our sound designer, for example, in Scotland was nominated for the best sound design. And that's great. These people who work on the shows, not only on stage but backstage, are the backbone of what we do. And it's really great that they're recognised. Mark Walters got a nomination for best costume design for the costumes at the Belgrade Theatre. It's a celebration of all things pantomime, not just the performers. And of course there were plenty of our performers who were nominated as well.
It's a fantastic event. It's nice to see that back as well, isn't it?
It really is. To be able to do these sort of things, to celebrate live. We're all about communication. We're all about people, entertaining people. You need to be together to do that. So the fact that we can all get together at Trafalgar Theatre in April and celebrate pantomime is just tremendous.
And you mentioned how difficult last Christmas was, and we've spoken about that before. This is a really nice sort of silver lining to what was a bit of a black cloud, isn't it?
It is. The Pantomime Association have really worked hard to bring the awards back and to make sure that pantomime is recognised for what it is. It's a huge institution, and we're really just the custodians for the next generation. So the fact that we can all get together and celebrate and pass this information and baton down to the next generation is tremendous.
And it's encouraging as well for all those companies up and down the country who battled through with difficult situations. As well, we know, of course, the Wales and Scotland pantomimes had to close early, which was disappointing for them. This is really nice for them, isn't it?
It certainly is. To see recognition in all the venues, particularly in Scotland, in Greenock and Inverness, where they've both been nominated, is a great payoff for the hard work that everybody went through. Most of our productions at some stage saw understudies on stage or saw performances postponed, and the fact that we got through the season and the fact that we're all able to celebrate what we achieved is fantastic.
Well done, Stephen, and also to everybody here at Imagine HQ, because the awards go to the individual productions, but without the fantastic team here, they wouldn't be there at all, would they?
Totally. It's a team effort. It only works when everybody comes together. It's an all year round project, as you know. And we should also thank the audiences for coming out and supporting live theatre, because there wouldn't be any panto without them.
Well, let's hope it's a much better year this year. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, mate.
Okay, let's start our tour here at Imagine headquarters with Dave Edmonds, Head of Operations. How are you, first of all, and how is the year going for you so far?
Yeah, very well, thanks. It's going well. We're planning, obviously, quite a lot of productions again this year, and obviously we've got Justin out on the road at the moment, so it's been a busy start of the year.
First of all, I have to say, for anybody who's old enough, I bought all your records back in the 1970s because you share the name, of course, with a legendary rock and roll singer. Did you ever buy his records?
No, I didn't. I actually, although I probably do look old enough, I'm not actually old enough to remember him.
I think you might be lying about your age, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. So what's your background then? How did you come to be Head of Operations here?
So I started a long time ago working in Northampton at the Royal and Derngate as a trainee, and then gone through many different theatres around the country. The last venue I was working at being the Old Rep Theatre in Birmingham, being a theatre director there, running that.
And Derngate's got such a fabulous reputation for panto, of course, hasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I did a couple of good pantos there back in the late 90s.
And this is obviously very different, though, to working in a working theatre, isn't it? So tell us a bit about your job, what that entails.
So it's organising all the sets, including our shows, and hires for the whole year. So we've started at the moment planning our sets along with quite a few of our long-standing hire companies.
And that can be a vast number of shows, because the Imagine shows themselves will take sets, apart from Belgrade, which build their own every year, but then there'll be other companies that will hire not necessarily a whole set, but bits of set. So that's quite an operation, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last year we had about 30 shows out on the road, of which 17 were Imagine and then 13 hires. And as you say, that can be a full set package, or it can just be, a dragon hire or some costumes.
How does that work then? Directors and teams on each individual Imagine show will presumably know which sets they want or are going to have, but in terms of the hire, do companies come here and have a look and see what they fancy?
Yeah, quite often they'll come and have a look around. We'll give them an idea of what we can offer them, and then we'll show them the set ideas and then the costumes. There'll be lots of changes, they'll always want something different, and we try and make that work the best we can.
And that includes, of course, things like the Cinderella coach and horses, the flying coaches, of which you have several. Maybe that some companies will come specifically for special effects like that rather than whole sets.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so as you say, we've got 6 flying horses and carriages, and then we've got magic carpets, dragons for Sleeping Beauty. So there's plenty here, and literally, it can be. We take many phone calls, and every phone call is a completely different conversation.
One of the things we've spoken about on a previous episode is the fact that one thing that COVID enabled you to do was to get a catalogue up to date of everything you've got, barcoded, sets, costumes, props and so on. So that was probably one of the few bonuses of COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, COVID helped us. We changed our software actually to a cloud-based software, obviously everyone having to work from home. So we managed to push forward very, very well with our cataloguing, and now every item has a barcode on it. Every item has a location code, so we know, you can look on the system and find what you're looking for very, very quickly.
So how does your year pan out? We're in the spring now. We're a good 9 months away from Panto. So how does the year map out for you now?
So we're starting to look at the logistics of the season to try and work out the most cost-effective way of loading everything out of this building. Into that, we'll start planning our production meetings, which we normally will try and have 2, if not 3 production meetings for every single production. And like I say, at the moment, we're currently talking with all our hirers about what we can help them with.
And then, come the Panto season, it's like Piccadilly Circus out here, Arctics and trucks and vans and so on coming in and out. That's a nightmare in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, the logistics of working all that out is quite a challenge. We've got there can be days where we can have 7-8 different trucks coming in and out of this building. At the same time, we've got a plan around whether the right way around the warehouse. It ends up being like a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle, moving bits here, there, and everywhere.
And do you still love Panto?
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's a fun part of the theatre industry, and actually it's when theatres come alive, and it's quite nice that you can. What you see in the warehouse doesn't necessarily actually look anywhere near what it looks like on stage.
No. So what's your favourite?
I'd probably say Aladdin, because it was the first one I did.
And that was at the Derngate, was it?
Yeah, back in 1998.
It still has that magic, though, doesn't it, for families particularly? You see all the sets and the props and so on in here, but you see the kids' eyes wide open when it's all lit and the magic is there on stage.
As you know, a few years ago we did a massive digital panto in Croydon, and I took my daughter to watch that, and just seeing her reaction to it. Obviously I'd already seen it, but seeing her reaction was amazing. Keep
up the good work, and thanks for talking to us.
No worries, thank you very much.
Well, away from sets, let's talk about props and stage management, because head of props and stage management is Ros Simpson. How are you, first of all?
I'm very well, thanks. Lovely to be in the warehouse. A bit cold, but
It is. It's spring. It's sunny outside, but it's a bit chilly in here because it's just vast, isn't it? And looking around, we'll talk about some of the props in a moment's time. But before we do, tell us a bit about your background and how you came to A, work in theatre, and B, come to Imagine.
Gosh, so I guess theatre's all I've ever known professionally. I started my training at Newcastle College a very long time ago, and then was fortunate to go on to train at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, where I did my degree for 3 years in production management, actually. And from there, I was fortunate I stepped out professionally very quickly, and my first job was actually a pantomime.
Oh, wow.
So what goes round? And I toured for several years, and then wound my way to Coventry, where I spent some time at the Belgrade Theatre, did several seasons there as part of their stage management team, and worked with Imagine Theatre there as co-producers of their show. And then was fortunate enough to be offered a position here at Imagine Head Office. And here we are. I've been here now since 2018.
At the Belgrade, you'd have worked on the annual pantos there with Ian Lachlan, maybe Andy Hockley as Dame as well for a little while. There is such a great tradition there, isn't there?
Such a great tradition. My first panto was Mother Goose at the Belgrade, which was with Andy Hockley, and then subsequent years were with Ian. And yeah, the Belgrade is such a magical place to spend Christmas. Their pantos they're phenomenal, and it is just magical. The whole theatre gets on board, and we love being involved in that too up at Imagine. We
were talking briefly before we had this conversation about tradition of panto. Sunderland Empire, the Belgrade is the same. The big producers of theatre around the country, the rep theatres if you like, and there's such a strong tradition of panto there, isn't there?
Absolutely, and I think what you find in the rep theatres is a more traditional sense of family panto, a story-led panto, which is of course what we specialise in here. And personally, what I enjoy the most about panto, keeping it traditional, keeping it with the stories, and adding in the glitz and the glam with that, but really the storytelling is what I think as a young child you remember.
Now, we were talking as well about, panto's a thread through your life, really. That's all you've ever known. We were talking about working together on Dick Whittington at Loughborough, I won't say how many years ago, when you were Deputy Stage Manager at DSM on the show. But I wonder where this all started. Can you remember going to see panto as a child?
Yeah, we went, I didn't come from a big theatrical family. We weren't a big theatre goers, but my mum always took us to the panto every year, to a local amateur panto. And we used to go there, and I remember in our local town hall, we went every year and saw the show, and the things that stick in your head, like the sweets throw and the shouting and the booing, and just really being in the moment with it. And I think theatre sort of just took me from that time, and it was all I ever wanted to do.
Did you ever want to perform?
No, never. I did do, I think as most people did, a little youth theatre, but no, from as soon as I sort of understood what it would be to have a backstage career, I moved into that. The Gala Theatre in Durham, when they opened they still run a very successful stage school, and I was part of the backstage team for that stage school, and that's really how I professionally entered the industry.
So what about us going to see a panto as a child? Were you ever one of those kids who went up for the song sheet?
No, not at all. Martin, you've known me for a while now, and I can't imagine ever having wanted to do that.
What was the first panto that you worked on then? Can you remember that?
First panto I worked on was Cinderella, many, many moons ago.
And for that reason, is that possibly your favourite?
Yes, I think so. I think it'll always be my favourite, mostly for that reason. And also, I guess I'm just I love the story. It's so traditional. It's a fairy tale that so many children will recognise and can resonate with, and I just think it's magical. Okay,
so tell us a bit about your job here now at Imagine. I think it's maybe 2-3 years or more now, isn't it?
Yeah, gosh, the seasons just fly by. So I joined Imagine January 2018 when the season had just closed, so a busy time to join the team. And I look after all of the props provision for all of our shows, so our own produced shows and also our hired shows. And I also look after the stage management team, so recruitment of the teams and the smooth rollout of the season.
And the props can be any number of things. I mean, looking around here, we've got broomsticks, we've got custard pie cases, we've got parcels, there can be cakes, there can be all sorts of things. There must be thousands.
Yeah, we have thousands and thousands of items here, and yet still we get requests that surprise us. It's never a dull day in the props warehouse. So yeah, we could have a UV skeleton one day, and then we could be talking about a giant the next day, and then a custard pie, like you say. So yeah, thousands of items. And I work with a freelance team over the season, and we try and have everything catalogued and are able to then divide it up across our shows and provision everything out.
So people listening to this now might be thinking, well, let's say you have 4 Cinderella shows, you may have 3 Aladdins or whatever, then you'll have a set and props that match up with each of those. But of course, scripts change every year. That might mean that props change every year. It's not as simple as keeping everything in a package, is it?
Not at all, especially I imagine because our writers work very hard to change our scripts year on year. So we don't tend to keep shows truly packaged together like that. As we start to get scripts in, then I'll start to allocate what will be the most appropriate item for each show based on the stock that I know we have available.
And some props will be more popular than others. You can't imagine an Aladdin without a lamp, for instance, can you?
No, absolutely not. And gosh, last year we had a lot of Aladdins out, so there was a lot of lamps. And of course, every year we replenish stock, so it's not always stock items. We have new items made. We have to be quite conscious of our environmental footprint, so we refurbish where we can as well. And that makes it actually quite interesting when we're looking across the season.
And towards the end of the year then, that's when all of the packages of sets, props, costumes and so on are being put together. The big trucks will arrive to take them all off. So there's a bit of jeopardy with that, isn't there? As you get closer to the season, the time is running out to get it all together.
Absolutely. And yeah, there's nothing like the pressure of the trucks coming. So props and wardrobe, we always go ready for the start of rehearsal. So we're almost a week ahead of the set going. And yeah, we look full now and the aisles look full now, but come October, November time, we're full of empty cases and we're starting to pack everything, and it really is a critical time for us.
I have to say as well that I know you're under incredible pressure even once the seasons are in rehearsal. I'll tell you why I know this, because there will be in a rehearsal room at a theatre somewhere, an actor or a director will say, what we could do here is if we had a 20-foot submarine, we could actually, and that would be hilarious, phone Roz and see if she's got a 20-foot submarine. I'm exaggerating, but that happens, doesn't it?
It absolutely happens. We had a phone Roz and see if there's a courgette that I could arrive in. Yeah, phone Roz is a popular phrase in those rehearsal weeks, and you think it's done 20 odd times over, but we wouldn't have it any other way here. No request really ever comes as a surprise to us, and it's a healthy challenge to see how many we can fulfill in those weeks.
It's important for the creative process, isn't it? I have to say. Now, the other thing that it's worth talking about is that I think this year might be more challenging than ever in terms of stage management teams. We know, don't we, just how many people have either gone away from the industry for a while to do other jobs, but some won't return because they may have found a security elsewhere and don't really necessarily want to go back to what might be a precarious career in stage management. Is that tricky?
Very tricky. And the 2021-22 season for stage management, it was very tricky. We're fortunate here. We have a really strong pool of people who like to return to work with us, and we love to work with them. And I think for us, it's about nurturing new talent that's coming through, giving those graduates the opportunities. We always say, please talk to us. And if we can, we're running some training. So we're working with the Edinburgh School of Stage Management, for example, and their students came to us across a number of our shows. So it is challenging. We have to accept that, like you say, a lot of people are not coming back to the industry, which has devastated it in some respects. But I think it's about nurturing those who are staying, who want to stay, those who are training currently, who want to come into the industry, and really giving those people the opportunity to show us what they're made of and what they can bring to the industry, the new talent.
Now, when I worked with you, you weren't a mum. You are a mum now, and it might be too early for panto, but I mean that will open it up in a totally different way for you to be able to take your own child to a panto, won't it?
My son Freddie's already had his first experience of theatre.
And how old is he?
He's just turned 2. So yeah, of course, the theatre mum, he had to get in the theatre very early. His dad also works in the theatre. So yeah, I really look forward to being able to take him to panto. Of course, last season was quite difficult with the pandemic and no one was quite sure. So next season we'll take him, see the Santa shows that we do here and across to panto.
Perfect.
But yeah, I can't wait.
He will absolutely love it. And the other thing I have to ask you is, we no longer see your smiling face in the wings when people come off stage calling the show impromptu corner at that DSM desk or whatever. Do you miss it?
Absolutely, I miss it all the time. Yeah, I miss it more than anything. It's
Is it the people?
It's the people, Martin, yeah. No, of course I miss it. There's nothing like live theatre as a stage manager. There's nothing like being on the ground, calling the shows, being with the people, just that interaction. But, I'm very fortunate to have the position here at Imagine, and it gives me a really good insight. It's another way of flipping those stage management skills. It's all the same skills. Yeah, I'm just really fortunate to have my role here. But, of course, I miss it, and never say never.
Well, listen, it's been fabulous talking to you. I know it's only the spring, but you are incredibly busy, so we'll let you go. Ros, thank you for that.
Thank you. It's been great to talk to you.
Well, let's finish this episode with Head of Sets and Stores, Jason Noble. We spoke to you before briefly in the previous episode, Geordie, and it's obvious whereabouts you come from. Just tell us a bit about your own background, first of all, and how you came to be involved in this sort of stuff in the first place.
Well, initially, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was younger, but I built houses with my father. And then I kind of fell into this because I found a college course and found that I really, really liked the backstage stuff. Not an actor. You really don't want to see me act. That's not good. And I did the course. Went on the dole for quite a while, and then finally someone took a chance on me, which was at Alton Towers, and I stayed there for nearly 9 years, putting shows on.
Wow.
Various shows, magic shows, ice shows, music shows, concerts, big stunt shows, all sorts. And eventually they did a refurb of the theatre in Stoke-on-Trent, so I went there for a week, and then suddenly I was the head flyman. And really enjoyed flying. Did that for 6 years, then moved to technical management for a few years, and then I moved to Wales and head of stage.
Blimey, you've been around a bit, haven't you?
I've been around a bit. Then about 6 years ago I left the business because we wanted to start a family. My wife's a company manager, so we both left the business. We've got 2 beautiful children now, and then this job came up here. I've known Dave for many a year, and we chatted, so I applied, and here I am now.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about head flyman, because I mean, flying, for those people who don't know, we're not talking about Peter Pan and flying actors. We're talking about flying sets and flats and cloths and so on, aren't we? But that's changing a lot. It's more automated now, isn't it, than ever?
There's a lot more automation going on now, but there's still plenty of theatres out there that have hemp, which takes a lot of flymen and a lot of grunt. There's still a lot of counterweight out there, which is a very good system, and there's 2 different kinds of counterweight systems. But when you think about it, all you're doing is pulling the rope, but it's quite a skilled job to get right, because I'm sure you've seen things bounce off the floor when you've been watching a show.
Yep.
That's it gone wrong. It should never bounce off the floor, even if it's rattling in at a great speed. But that's where the skill comes in. And
the on-tower stuff that you did as well gives you a perfect background for panto, because panto can have all the very same elements of the shows that you were talking about, whether it be magic tricks or, some pantos even have skating in, don't they?
They do, yes. I've worked on a nice panto before, as we did them at Alton Towers many years ago. Yes, Alton Towers was a very mixed bag. But yes, there's a lot of similarities to panto, because there's a lot of costumed characters. Yeah. But Alton Towers is a very different beast. It's not really theatre, but because it's a whole business, it's a theme park, and the entertainment is a part of that. But I dearly loved the years there. I've dearly loved all my time anyway. Touring was never something I wanted to do. I always like to be based somewhere.
As a child, growing up in the Newcastle area, I would imagine, I won't say Sunderland, because that would be... We were talking to Ros about the Sunderland Empire, but obviously the theatres up and down the country, Newcastle as well, great tradition of panto. Do you remember going to see one as a child?
Oh yes, I saw quite a few as a child. It was always fun, bright, loud. Didn't make me want to work in the business.
No.
Because at the time I didn't know what I wanted to do. I fell into the business, and I've loved it ever since.
When you saw the first panto, do you remember what it might have been, the first one you ever saw, by the way?
The first one was probably a Mother Goose. Not that Mother Goose is a favourite of mine, but yeah, I think it was a Mother Goose. And I can't remember what year it would be, but as I'm old, it was quite a long time ago.
What do you remember about it, though? Or any panto as a child? Why was it so magical, do you think?
Well, it was just different. Just something completely different to what was the norm as in my childhood. It was loud, it was bright, it was colourful, it was funny. Although obviously some of the jokes went over my head, and now I'd laugh at them now. But that's the point of panto. It's not just for the kids, it's for everybody.
And did you go as a whole family?
Mostly.
Yeah.
It was difficult with my parents working shifts. We couldn't always sync up. It was difficult. But yeah, I either went with one or the other or some other family members.
Because that's probably the only time that you will do that as well, isn't it? And also the only time when you can literally shout and get involved and, you know, nobody's telling you off for being noisy or whatever. So there's a great sort of freedom for kids in the audience, isn't there?
Yes. No, it was definitely something, because there wasn't a lot of children's shows back then that I certainly went to in the northeast. That were based in the theatre. I mean, there was Punch and Judy down at the seaside. There was plenty of that. Loved Punch and Judy because there was a lot of hitting.
Yeah.
And crocodiles. And a very good friend of mine then went into Punch and Judy, who I worked with.
Punch and Judy, you probably know, just like panto, comes out of commedia dell'arte and the tradition, and you'll see Punch has a slapstick rather like, you know, the traditional slapstick that was used in panto, where the phrase actually came from. So, you know, there's a big similarity there between the two. So now you're here, and I can see every time we've been in, you've got a big smile on your face. You obviously love what you do. Tell us about your job on a daily basis.
Well, on a daily basis, I come and play with lots of bits of wood, mostly. There's a lot of sorting out to do, especially now that everything's back from the season. I'm slowly going to have to go through every set, checking it, repairs, replacements, see if anything needs painted, so we get the scenic artist in. It isn't just those few months of the year. It takes a lot of prep. Any set in a theatre takes a lot of prep and storage. And obviously, as you can see, walking around the store, it's quite full at the moment.
It's vast. It's absolutely vast. We talked about this last time, and you know, we've got flats here, we've got cloths we talked about before, portals and other things as well. They take a lot of battering, don't they? The wear and tear in the trucks, but also during the shows themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the cast do accidentally sometimes walk into the portals. Things happen. I've seen a foot go through a canvas flat before.
Yeah.
I've seen bits of set be broken accidentally. And
the shows would be so much better if they could just look at your sets and get the actors out of the way, wouldn't they?
Oh, no. As much as my sets are very important, you can still put the show on without them. Yeah. It's a bit dull to watch because there's nothing there to frame the actors. But I love fixing things. I have done ever since I was small. So
30-odd sets, wear and tear, it is a full-time job for basically 9 months of the year just doing that, isn't it?
Yes, and I'm just busy sorting out the store at the moment to see what we've got left after the season for what repairs I need to do this year. Nuts, bolts, screws, washers, hinges. The list is endless, and I will have to be putting an order in at some point once I run out of stuff.
And as well as the Imagine shows, obviously, which are a really high standard when it comes to sets and props and costumes and so on, you may at any time get a call in to hire something that might need to be repaired quickly because it's got to go out. So there's a constant demand, isn't there?
Oh yes, I mean, we try and get ahead on that. But you never know when a hire's going to come in. You could get a call today and say, "Oh, can we have something on Monday?" And I'll go, "Oh, which set is it?" And then panic and go, "Oh, quickly!" I'll start pulling the set out of the bay it's packed in, spread out everywhere, and checking it, because a lot of these sets aren't brand new, so the wood does age. It gets cracks in that have to be repaired or replaced. Just keep an eye on everything, and the transport of all the sets is probably when the most damage occurs, and it's nobody's fault. It's just what it is. Yeah. You have to put everything into a box on wheels that trundles along the road and hits potholes and various other things.
Yeah. So how old are your kids now?
One's just turned 3 and the other one will be turning 5 in May.
Perfect age for panto. Have you taken them to see a show yet?
The 4-year-old has been. She went to see De Montfort Hall at Leicester this year. She has been to a few shows, other children's shows this year, so she's getting used to it. The little one, she's not been to a show yet, but this end of this year she's going to a show back in October, I think it is, and then maybe panto this next season.
Yeah. How's that for you as a parent? You see it in a totally different way, don't you, with your kids there?
I probably wouldn't go. I don't specifically go and watch shows because I find that I don't watch the show. I watch everything else. Yeah. Which, as I have a lot of friends who are actors, I find that a disservice to them on the stage to not watch them. So I don't really go and see that many shows. As an honest,
you should really get out more.
I go to the cinema instead because I can't control any of that.
I know how busy you are. We'll let you carry on. And hope your kids enjoy Panto this Christmas. Hopefully, coming out of COVID, it'll be a better experience.
I hope so, yes.
Thanks so much.
Cheers, thanks.
And that brings another episode to a close, I'm afraid. Don't forget to subscribe to the series to catch up with any episodes you've missed, and make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Next time, I'll be chatting to Imagine's artistic director, Eric Potts. That's the next episode of Just Imagine. I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to the latest edition of Just Imagine, the podcast series from Imagine Theatre. And you can find out more by going to www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.